I am. I'm Barbara DeGraff. I'm your learning community facilitator for the day. And when you fill out your evaluation, it asks, how did I do? It'll say, how did your learning community facilitator do? That's me. And I welcome all your comments. So good, bad, whatever, I welcome them. The other thing that we did not share with our remote sites, and I apologize, we will get this to you. Everything will come to you via email from me after the event. But we also have a really exciting opportunity we just learned about Tuesday, I think. And it says Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Summit. So Strategies is partnering with OCAP and with the Child Welfare Directors Association of California. And they're hosting a summit. It's going to be a Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Summit in San Diego in January 31st and February 1st. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm from South Lake Tahoe, so woohoo. So I'm just going to read to you a little bit about this because I did just learn about it and I want to give you the correct information. So this is a collaborative opportunity, statewide summit. The summit's going to be different from a typical conference. Individual organizations are not registering themselves. County child welfare directors and child abuse prevention councils are going to apply to participate. And they would name a cross-sector team of up to 10 agencies, individuals from agencies, so I think it's 10 total, to attend along with them. The goal is going to be to create a shared county plan for child abuse prevention and family strengthening, or if you have an existing plan, to regroup and strengthen it. It's a historic opportunity with the potential for real progress on behalf of our children in California. And I encourage you to reach out to your county's CAPC, Child Welfare Agency. I know we have CAPC here, and recommend that they apply. Let them know that your organization wants to be part of the team. So if you're not a CAPC and you're not child welfare, reach out to your child welfare and your CAPC and say, hey, we'd love to do this. I will, again, be sending this flyer out to you via email, so you'll get it after this event. I would say probably look for it like middle of next week, a highlights document with all of the material as well as this, okay? So if you're interested, I think it's worth applying, and because it's coming quickly, once again, and I don't know the application date. Does anyone know?
No, but give me a flyer and I'll enter some.
Oh, you're so good. She's entering. Carrie's going to enter the information into the chat box for our remote participants as well as for our online folks that are in their pajamas at home. But anyway, I don't know much more about it. As I said, I just received this information, but I will get more out to you as I receive it. I have all of you on a mailing list, which I think you know because I send you emails. I try not to send you too many. So that's Strategies. So we've got a lot going on, and that's a really exciting opportunity that fits right in with what we're doing today. So I need 3 seconds for this. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention to you is if you go to our Strategies CA website, there's a resources section. You know, there's tabs along the top, and one of them is resources. We have just developed a visual resource, Building Community Resilience Toolbox. And I believe it's going to have a total of 3 volumes. Am I correct on 3? And this is volume number 1. Again, this came to us and I was prepping for today, so I haven't looked at it myself, but I think it's something that you may want to take a look at, and we may want to focus a learning community around it as we get more volumes 1, 2, and 3. So we'll think about that. Like, take a look and tell me what you think. So that's another resource that's there that I hope you'll take a look at. And of course, always we want to thank our funder. Come on, funder, I want to thank you. There they are. I want to thank OCAP because they fund us. Without them, we couldn't offer all this. You all are very kind thanking me, and I'm sure at the remote sites, they have food there, but it's all because OCAP provides us with the funding for this program. Okay, if you use social media, which I am not a social media user, please post about our Building Resilience series and get your friends and folks to come. Okay, Where am I at? Yay! In your handouts, we have a description of what a learning community is. I don't want to go through it today. Most of you have heard me, but I do want to say that this is your learning community. It's really important to me that you tell me what you want, and I will do my best to get in speakers and to get information and materials that are going to be helpful to you. That's really the goal, is that we create this regional cross-sector. And these I showed this slide at our last learning community, so I won't spend much time on it, but just to say that we did survey our participants, and you all said that you are using something in your work that you've learned, and the more learning communities you come to, the more you use, because again, we hope to build on knowledge. And today we have our hub in Jackson, yay! We have Loyalton in Sierra County participating remotely. We have Alpine, Markleeville, remote participation. We have my hometown, South Lake Tahoe, yay, South Lake Tahoe, and they're participating remotely. And then we have our, our online participants. So we have a good group. This is your learning community. You know that. So the topics that you all rank the highest, this is why we're having a resiliency series. Resilience is everywhere now. People are looking at how do you build community resilience. But for our next program, we're going to talk about behavioral health services. So we're going to look at behavioral health services through the lens of building family, community, and agency resilience. And I always want to look at those three things because agency resilience is important to me as well, right? Because if we've got to be able to do the work, and it's hard on us as the folks that we work with, a lot of times we take their trauma in. In handout number 3, we have save the dates, which is in your packets. And for the online folks, it's in your material, handout number 3. So our next learning community is going to be February 7th. And that's going to be, again, we have the hub here, remote sites if people want them. I'm still looking for people to speak to us and to share about mental health, wrap around, again, through that lens of how to use these behavioral health services to build community, agency, and family resilience. If you have people in your work you'd like to hear from, shoot me an email. My cards are at the table. You should have my email anyway. But please let me know. I will follow up on any ideas that you have, and I'll try to find speakers that are really going to resonate. I'm hoping to focus on how can we provide the best level of behavioral health services within rural communities, because that's one of our challenges, is that we're so darn big and people are isolated. So that's going to be my focus. Oh, and I didn't mention the evaluation. Handout number 2 is your evaluation. We made it on one page this time, so hopefully it's a little easier because people didn't turn it over and forgot the back. So please do, you can write ideas for speakers on your evaluation, share any feedback with me. I really do read them and I take it very seriously. So we've talked a little bit about what we're going to try to do this fiscal year. We're going to really work on the resilience area, and we want to come up with not only a common understanding, but some ideas for tools that people can use. And I was speaking with a woman the other day. She's from Oakland, which of course is very different than our area, but I'm thinking for her in May, she has a program called Project Permanence, and she works with youth in the child welfare system and youth in the juvenile justice system, and provides a wraparound program. And they go all over the state because even kids in Oakland have to leave Oakland to get services, unfortunately. So that's what we're looking at as one idea, just one program to highlight in May. And in your save the date, the May 16th date is in there as well. Okay. So we're going to try to start and end on time. I was 5 minutes late. I'm not going to have a break for you all. Everybody, remote sites, etc. Please feel free to get up, get coffee, go do whatever you need to do. This is your time and your learning community. So we want to keep it as informal as we can. But do silence your cell phones or have them on vibrate, which I had to do before I started here. Okay. So today we're going to look at some innovative child abuse prevention programs. You have an agenda in your packet. which will take you through the day. And we're going to hopefully come up with how we can use Child Abuse Prevention Month activities as a platform for building resilience throughout the year. So it's not just like that one month that we focus on, but that we look throughout the year, how can we integrate these things into our activities? And then we're gonna have some fun listening to a TED Talk on trauma stewardship by Laura Vandernoot Lipsky. And every county was received a copy of her book on trauma stewardship, which I'm asking for folks to put in the library for circulation. So I gave a copy to Jude Wood down in El Dorado County. Erica has a copy here. I gave a copy, and I apologize, to Calaveras County. So, and I'm going to send one to Dee Dee Turgeson in Mono County, and I also sent up to Sierra and to Inyo County. I'm still trying to get somebody from Mariposa County. I haven't. Then, oh, can you show me I don't have the book in front of me. Trauma Stewardship, Laura Vandernoot Lipsky. We'll talk more about that. And then we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about how we can help ourselves. No report out. I don't want any stress. I want you guys to just talk, pair, share at your tables comfortably. And that's our flow for the day. How am I doing on time? I want to get you to your program. Doing well. We're going to adjourn at 12:30 today. So this is a little bit of a different time. We started a little early. We're going to adjourn at 12:30. Please let me know how that works for folks, if you like it. The remote sites, the online participants as well. When you do your evaluation, let me know if you like the time. We're getting so good with the technology. We used to need more time in the morning to set it up, but now we're rocking and rolling on that. Okay. And now we're gonna, yeah, that's right, she's the DJ. So now we're gonna do a quick introductions. The remote sites, you do introductions there yourselves, the online participants. If you wanna be a part of introductions, just in the chat box, chat your name and your agency, and we'll read it out after we start in Jackson with our introductions. So if you could just do I think you all pretty well know each other by now, but just in case, your name, what county you're from, and the agency. And we're going to you can turn the camera for, okay.
This mic is not amplified. It's for the online participants, just so you know. I can't hear myself, but that's why. So you need to speak a little bit up on this and put it close to your mouth.
I'm Robin Davis, and I'm a program coordinator with First Five Calaveras and Prevent Child Abuse Council.
I'm Natalie Adage. I'm from Yolo County. I work for Yolo County Children's Alliance as the Child Abuse Prevention Coordinator.
And you're our presenter. Yay!
I'm Marcy Gallagher from Calaveras County. I'm with the Public Health Department and the foster care nurse, and on the Council to Prevent Child Abuse.
Connie Vacarezza from Public Health Amador.
I'm Donna Jackson. I'm a health educator and home visitor for Amador County Public Health.
Tracy Carlton, First Five Amador and Child Abuse Prevention Council of Amador.
Erica Simmons, First Five Amador and Child Abuse Prevention Council of Amador.
I'm Katie Reinhardt from the El Dorado County Office of Education.
Hi, Joyce Peak, First Five Calaveras Program Coordinator.
Rose Strickler, Amador County, Nexus Youth and Family Services.
I am Ellen Turner with New Morning Youth and Family Services in El Dorado County.
Hi, I'm Tammy Montgomery. I work for Hospice with Grief Busters in Amador and Calaveras County.
I'm Denise Marino. I'm the director of Monarch Montessori Preschool in Plymouth and also on the Amador Child Care Council.
Oh, I got Mona in the house.
Cambria Wright, and I am interning at Amador County Behavioral Health.
Great, wonderful. I don't want to put this too close. Here we go. All right, welcome everybody. Here we go.
I'm going to unmute Jude.
Anybody from the online folks?
I do have a few, but I've unmuted Jude's group if they want to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Kay Huxtable, Foster Kinship Care Program, Foster Care Kinship Education Program at Lake Tahoe Community College, El Dorado County.
Hi.
Wood, Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Lake Tahoe.
Nicolás Huerta, Program Coordinator at Villa Site.
Ali Messina, Program Coordinator at our main site.
Is that all of you?
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
And I don't think the other county, I don't know if Alpine wants to do introductions. Do they want to?
Click to mute. Okay. Let me tell you who said hi to us. I don't know. I'll ask them in a second.
Okay.
Dee Dee Turgeson
Yay, Dee
from
Dee!
Mono County has
She must be
joined
driving.
us. And we've got Alyssa, I'm going to say that wrong, Domenico from also from Mono County Social Services. We have Rachel from Alpine County Choices for Children.
Can you hear?
And let me see if we also have.
You have to speak up a little bit. For the group, you're in.
Oh,
sorry. No, you can speak into the mic, but just.
So the group from Markleyville, are you there?
Yes.
Who do you have in the room today?
This is Brianna. I am the Alpine Coordinator for Live Violence Free.
That's nice and loud.
And I'm Sarah. I'm the Alpine Advocate for Live Violence Free.
And this is Rick Johnson. I'm the Health Officer for the Public Health Department.
Welcome. Hi.
Yay, welcome. And then let me unmute Tammy. Hi, Tammy. You are self-muted, so if you're going to speak, you're going to need to unmute yourself.
Hello. So Tammy Muldoon, can you hear me?
Yes, nice.
Okay. Sierra County Child Abuse Prevention Council.
Mary Wright, Child Care Council.
Vicki Clark with Health and Human Services. Kathy Bertinelli, Family Resource Center, High Sierras Family Services, Child Abuse Prevention Council. Cameron Powers from Social Services, social worker.
Kathy Morrell, Family Outreach Worker for High Sierras Family Services, and Sierra County Child Abuse Council.
That's it.
Thank you so
great.
much.
And we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Perfect. All right. That's our group. We got a good group. And again, we'll get the materials about there's so many folks from the CAPC. We'll make sure to get the flyers to you and child welfare about that event in January 31st and February 1st so that you too can apply if you're interested. All right. So we actually are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. So I'm going to see Maria and Julie, are you guys ready? I see you there. They look like they're ready to go. So we're going to start with our first national example of Child Abuse Prevention Month activities. And we have Maria Doyle, and she's the program director from the New Hampshire Children's Trust Fund, and Julie Day, Strengthening Families Director from New Hampshire Children's Trust Fund. And in your packet, while small, next to their names, there is the website that, so you can go to their website on your own that you can visit. Now did you turn over the controls to make them presenters? And then I'm going to make sure this is up as high as it can be. Excitement.
I've just made you the presenter. There you go. Oh my gosh. Everybody
We can
clap.
see your screen. Beautiful.
Okay, so you can see our PowerPoint?
We can see your screen and we can see you. And I'm going to, can you guys speak? You may need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, how is this? So,
I think how's that for you guys? Can't hear, can you? No. Can you speak up a little bit more? Do you have a phone or?
That's not usually feedback I get, but I usually, I'm known as speaking pretty loudly, but we were told the cell phone was the best way to connect. So,
well, That's true. You're right. I'm going to move, can you hear? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So we turned our volume off. Okay, so can you see our PowerPoint presentation now?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So my name is Maria Doyle. I'm a program director with New Hampshire Children's Trust, and I'm here with my colleague Julie Day, who's our Strengthening Families Director. And we really want to thank you for the opportunity to share some of our work today. And when we talked to Barbara about presenting, rather than, we really feel like our strength is in sharing how we build all of our work, including our Child Abuse Prevention Month activities on the Strengthening Families framework. So we're really going to be presenting from that frame and allow folks to hopefully get some ideas for how they can extend their child abuse prevention activities throughout the year. Okay, so so we really, in 2011, the New Hampshire Children's Trust, who in our state we are a private nonprofit, and we don't have a fund as part of our name, although we are the stewards of the New Hampshire Child Abuse Prevention Children's Trust Fund, but our agency name is New Hampshire Children's Trust. We're the New Hampshire chapter of Prevent Child Abuse America, and we are New Hampshire's CDCAP lead. And in 2011, we, as a formal part of our strategic plan, really adopted the Strengthening Families framework as our filter for really any activity that we would pursue. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that we do that with concrete examples.
So our first thing that we do is we've taken our Unsung Hero event that we do in February, and we've leveraged this event that we were successful in already, and to use it to educate people about the protective factors and how the protective factors show up in everyday life. We honor 28 parents for the 28 days of February, and we do it with our governor in the State House. Parents show strength by overcoming everyday actions, everyday stress, having supportive networks, learning parenting skills and child development, knowing where to look for help, knowing how to help their children talk about their feelings. So we really have embedded all the protective factors into the nomination forms of the event. The next event that we do is our annual summit. Every spring we hold a Strengthening Family Conference to gather everyone that's doing this work to celebrate and discuss prevention through the lens of the framework. We've been using the protective factors as a foundation for this work, such as resilient communities, parental depression, part natural and part learned, the science of relationships, and one of the requirements that we do have when we're talking to presenters is to find out how they use the protective factors in the workshops that they'll be doing and how they embrace the protective factors in the work that they do in their programs. April is Prevent Child Abuse Prevention Month. We've in New Hampshire changed it to Strengthening Families Month. We use this as a platform to educate different entities around the state. We give examples like this calendar that you see as examples for both parents and providers. So we have a separate one for parents and a separate one for providers. So we use for examples of everyday actions. And some of these could be have a family game night, make a list of new skills to help your child be healthy and happy. Teach your child to resolve conflicts peacefully, and so on and so forth. So we have it set up in this calendar to make it easy to see how easy it is to embed the work that, to embed the protective factors in their everyday. We also hold a statewide Parent Advocacy Day with the Head Start PAC, which is the Parent Association Council. And this is really our parent conference. We use all of the protective factors in the work that we do with it, but we particularly focus on concrete supports and parental resilience to make sure that they're taking care of themselves so that they can take care of their children, and to know where they need to go to get the resources that they need.
And in this picture are some of the parents who attended that day are holding up signs that our advocacy initiative, parental advocacy initiative, is called My Voice Matters. And these parents are all each holding up a sign that has the name of the campaign, My Voice Matters Because, and they each completed the answer for them, hopefully reflecting some of the skills that they received during the parent advocacy, that they were allowed to build during the Parent Advocacy Day. So this is a very recent poster that we used to get people to vote, and again, just using, leveraging the My Voice Matters campaign and our encouraging of parental resilience and access to concrete supports for parents to use their voice to get out the vote.
We also hold numerous trainings throughout the year for professionals and parent leaders. In 2016, we included trainings for parents around the protective factors. So you can see here, this is at one of our family resource centers here in Concord, New Hampshire. And this training is My Voice Matters. Why is it important to have friends? So social connections. The next one is how can we help our children be well-adjusted adults, which is social and emotional competence. And the last one is celebration, so that we can celebrate all of their strengths.
So one of another initiatives that the New Hampshire Children's Trust leads in New Hampshire is the effort to see the period-of-couple crying infant abuse prevention program be in the hands of every new parent. And this is, and even that, and taking on that initiative, we really applied that Strengthening Families Framework filter. So this was a publication that we had that we drew the connections for other folks working with early children in early childhood about how the Creative Purple Crying promoted protective factors, and was just another extension of our Strengthening Families work.
So we have different posters that we get out around the state to be hung where parents are, the doctor's office, library, schools, family resource centers, storefronts, and more. People can use these any way that they wish. They hand them out to parents, they hang them on bulletin boards. And this one we love particularly because it says 20 ways to say I love you to your child. So it's just a reminder of catching kids doing something good. We've shrunk this into a magnet that is 15 ways to say I love you to your child, so that it's readily available every day.
So part of our effort with just changing attitudes and social norms is really for parents and other people in the community members to really see in as simple a language as possible what protective factors are and what they and how they show up in people's lives. And this is one of our popular posters that called the Family Checklist that just shows explains each of the protective factors in just real everyday actions that we're, what are the things that your family needs. We can make, we're in the process of updating our website, and if anyone is interested in any of these posters, our emails at the end of this presentation, we're happy to send them out or at least send PDFs along of each of these if people are interested in that.
I'd also like to say something about the checklist. I have 3 children, and some days I'll go through the list and say, I have this one, and this one. Oh yeah, this is what I'm missing. So using the protective factors is really important, and if families have them, if they know what they are, they're more likely to be successful. But it's nice to have a checklist to just go through those things sometimes. This last poster is 10 ways, 10 loving gifts for your family. And it's just a simple poster that has the small but significant changes of things that we can do in our community to support families. So just easy things that we may not even think of to support our families throughout the year. We also we leverage our social media posts to be either focused, they may be focused on a particular protective factor, or focused on how families or how community members, family, friends, and neighbors can be involved in supporting supporting families in their community. So this is one of our Strengthening Families tips that we use in our social media posts. We're lucky to have a communication specialist who times these out to reflect different things. Another way that we use media to sort of help communities build resiliency is that we have hosted or we've partnered with community groups to host screenings of the Resilience film, and whenever we do that, we also connect it to the Strengthening Families framework and draw that line of connection between being an ACEs and trauma-informed community, as well as a resiliency building community that promotes family protective factors. This is another one of our social media posts. So oftentimes we will schedule them to take advantage of things that may be going on throughout the year. So this is a post about school parent-teacher conferences. So how that's another opportunity. Our advocacy trainings and campaign does not only have to do with, advocating on the legislative or on the community or the policy level, but even things as simple as being able to speak up for your child's needs with their teacher, or speaking up at the doctor's office about your concerns, and up to the continuum of certainly including being able to take a larger voice on policy issues. But this is particularly speaking to us parent-teacher conferences, so we would use our social media outlets during that time of year when parent-teacher conferences are happening to, again, promote the message of parents as advocates. And that's it. That's what we have. This is our information. If you have any questions, please let us know. And I don't know if there's time for questions right now.
Does anybody have any questions in the hub or remote? No. And I'll also, is it okay if I make your presentation available to, would I be able to send out your presentation?
Sure.
Great. So I can email
I
that
can email
out.
it to you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll email it to you.
Perfect. Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll get that out to everybody in the highlights document as well. All right. Thank you very much, New Hampshire. Yay!
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, we have one question. Wait 1 second. One question.
You mentioned using, for Child Abuse Prevention Month, using Strengthening Families Month, and I'm wondering if that was done throughout the state? Or
We
just...
changed it.
Yeah. So we have we're a pretty small state, and New Hampshire Children's Trust is sort of a statewide agency, and it sort of depends on the audience. Like, we still do connect it to Child Abuse Prevention Month, but also invite people to think about it as Strengthening Families Month. We really frame our work, although we're New Hampshire's Prevent Child America chapter. Our message is that child abuse prevention is not what we do; it's the result of what we do. So really looking at the everyday acts to strengthen families and promote protective factors. That's what we do. And so certainly with certain audiences, that the Prevent Child Abuse Month may resonate more about them having a very they know what we're talking about. In as many audiences as possible, we shift the message to it being Strengthening Families Month.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. All right, I'm going to move on to our next presenter. We have Shannon Moody, and she's the director of the Face It Movement and Child Welfare Policy, Face It, Kentucky. So now we're going to turn over the controls to you, Shannon, and we'll let you know when we can see your screen. Ooh, we see you. There it is. Yes, we see your presentation not in the slideshow mode yet. There we go. Perfect. We're ready. Let's see if we can hear you.
Oh, I might need to unmute.
Wait, we have to unmute you. That would help. Wait. All right, try to speak, Shannon.
Okay, so I think I've been unmuted. Can you folks hear me?
We can, but you're a little low. Can you speak up?
Yes.
There we go.
A little closer to my speaker too here.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think we're ready to roll.
Yes, I think we're ready to roll. Start rolling.
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name is Shannon Moody. I'm a policy director at Kentucky Youth Advocates, but I am also the director of the Face It Movement to End Child Abuse, which is a coalition that I'm going to talk to folks about and talk a little bit about kind of how we formed, what we do, and how we engage agencies and individuals around our efforts. So
we need you just a little louder in our hub here. If you could just speak up. I'm sorry. I know it's frustrating, but
it's okay. I'll.
That's much better.
Okay. I just need to get a little closer to the speaker. I'm moving around again a little bit. Here we go. Okay. Whoop. All right. So, Face It is like I said, a coalition. It is a movement that was born out of the idea that from a local philanthropic group called COSAIR Charities. And COSAIR Charities has been around for about 95 years, and they helped to eradicate polio, and they decided to set their sights on child abuse next, and came to my organization, Kentucky Youth Advocates, and a couple of other organizations in the Louisville, Kentucky area, and said, we really want to figure out how to make a difference in the local community and hopefully statewide around the number of children who are experiencing abuse and neglect. Our goal is to end child abuse and neglect in Kentucky, which is like this big, audacious goal, but they said they didn't want to reduce it. They wanted to set the goal to end it. So they know that it's a long-term commitment, and they were really interested in identifying partner organizations who could get on board with that. So Kentucky Youth Advocates has quarterbacked this campaign. So we're like the backbone organization. But what we do is policy advocacy, coalition building, and statewide advocacy for Kentucky. So they came to us because we've built some really great connections across the state with organizations who work in and around this issue. So this is a screen with some of our partner organizations. We have over 60 partner organizations who are engaged in our work, and they range from the county attorney's office who prosecutes child abuse and neglect all the way to community centers who provide just very basic needs for parents and caregivers. So we've tried to capture all sorts of different groups who may interact with kids and families who are at potential risk of abuse and neglect in the area. And we are a very community-oriented movement. So we have basically pockets of partners in different locations across the state. So we started in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a more urban area, and then we have spread out into counties across the state that is a mix of both urban, suburban, and rural counties, depending on which part of the state you're in. And we've tried to cover several areas, but we're still growing. So we started in 2013, starting at 5 organizations, and have moved to 65, just about 65. So our focus is in 3 areas. And I know New Hampshire talked a bit about the focus around strengthening families. I would say that is rooted in everything that we do, and you'll probably hear and see that as I talk a little bit about what we do. But our 3 main areas of focus are around best practice, policy, and community engagement. And I'm going to go backwards in order, talking about what each one of those looks like and means on the ground. So the community engagement work that we do is really what you'd think of as community engagement. It's education, awareness building, getting out, talking to community groups, talking to organizations, talking to parents, caregivers, advocates about the risk factors around child abuse and neglect, about the prevalence of child abuse and neglect, and then depending on who we're talking to, about different ways that we talk about child abuse and neglect prevention. With parents and caregivers, most of the time we are not even mentioning the words child abuse and neglect. We're talking about supporting families. We're talking about how parenting is tough. So you'll notice that a lot of our visuals and our marketing are very friendly. They're very colorful and bright because we really want to capture and engage the attention of parents and caregivers. That's our main goal. And visuals of real kids just doesn't always cut it sometimes. So having a friendly visual that's kind of fun and playful can help us to capture attention.
Can you just try to speak up a little bit more? I'm sorry, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know why. There you go.
Okay. So these are some examples of how we have engaged the community. I'll go through some more, but basically we work around just about every avenue that you can get to get our name and our mission out there. So and then our message, obviously, because that's really what's important. So we get placements in traditional media, in newspapers. We have social media, Facebook, Twitter. We have our website, and then we also utilize like outdoor like bus wraps and bus stops and things like that to help basically with brand recognition, but getting our name out there so that people can utilize us as a resource. So I was going to, whoops. Nope. Sorry. Skipping ahead. What we do here. Nope. I was going to open up our slide, our website so that I could show folks the website, but for some reason I'm having trouble finding out like how to get out of this thing. So that's okay. So
I did give your website in their packet, so we do have that web address.
Perfect. Okay. So some of the things that we provide for free for parents and caregivers and professionals are resource materials. So I've got like physical copies here of some of the resources that we provide. And the audience depends on the resource. So we've got a body safety infographic. We've got this splash poster and note card here, and that's really geared towards parents and professionals. And it is an opening and a way that we talk about healthy body boundaries, relationships, safe touch, and giving parents and caregivers tools to talk to their kids about body safety. Because one of the things that we kept hearing from parents and caregivers is that they didn't know how to have those conversations. They didn't know how to start them. So we wanted to make sure that we found a really easy to use tool for parents and caregivers in ways that they could talk about those conversations and have those conversations with their kids without it being like too clinical or too intimidating. So we've developed a body safety 101 and like the splash poster to help folks talk about, those hard conversations with their kids. The other one that's on the screen is our brochure. That's really geared more towards professionals and volunteers and just the community. And that provides information around what are some risk factors that are involved? How do you step in and help a family if they're struggling? What's the prevalence right now? So what's the data? How prevalent is it in our communities? And then numbers for reporting.
Shannon, are all these available off your website? Can people
They
download
are.
them?
You can download them. We will also ship them anywhere for free. So if you wanted a couple of physical copies at your shop, we would be happy to send you what we've got. Okay. And you can have this to take a look at. So that's a great question. And on our website, in the corner, the top right-hand side, it says order material. You'll click on that, you fill it out, and then within usually a week or two, it's at your doorstep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So some other ways in which we engage parents, caregivers, we've got placement in First Time Parent Magazine. We've got like I said, our social media, and that is all year long. And then in April for Child Abuse Prevention Month, we really ramp up the amount of posting, the amount of media engagement that we do, like news media, interviews, online interviews, on camera interviews, and we really take that month to also engage our partners around sharing information as well. So all of our 63 partners, they follow us on social media, they share our stuff, and then they all have access to our social media plan for the month of April and then throughout the year. So they'll know when we're releasing materials or if we're, sharing different resources from other groups. We share a lot from like the American Academy of Pediatrics or different, like the CDC, different groups who have that really great already developed information so that we're not reinventing the wheel. Another area of focus is around best practice, and I talked about those partners. There's over 60 partners, and they have formed work teams around particular topics. So childcare professionals, educators, medical professionals, a group of youth, typically it's high school students, and then youth serving organizations, which is like, your out of school time programs. And all of them are part of the network, and they all have specific work teams that focus on different areas. So the youth serving organization team focuses on getting trainings out to professionals, out to businesses, out to people who just are interested in training and education. We have our child care professionals who provide information around reporting, supporting parents, parent engagement through our child care centers. So we've got work teams that have developed around those particular pieces. We're developing a work team around faith-based groups because that's been a big interest amongst our faith-based organizations and churches in our areas. So making sure that they have access to tools and different resources so they can be better informed and prepared. This is an example of what we've done in our local Catholic schools. We helped to provide Speak Up, Be Safe training for our students and teachers. And then there's an initiative in Daviess County in Owensboro, Kentucky, which is on the western part of the state, and they have developed this initiative around resilience leaders. And basically, what they did was had a professional come in. His name is Dominic Capello, and he has come in from New Mexico to talk about how to build and develop resilience leaders, so that there are identified leaders in the community, in the county, who have basically convened around what they call survival services. So behavioral health care, medical dental care, food, housing, and transportation, and then thriving services, meaning parent supports, youth mentors, early childhood learning programs. And they have convened to develop some strategies around how do we get to families and parents and caregivers specifically and talk to them about building resilience in their homes. So that is an initiative that started a couple of months ago. They're still new and they're still in development, but it's I think it's going to be a really great program that we're going to learn a lot from and will probably replicate in other communities across Kentucky.
Cool. That's nice.
So we also work on statewide policy. We have a policy team within our work teams, and that's made up of organizations, all of our partner organizations. Typically, we have about 25 individuals in that group regularly. We meet monthly, and we talk about statewide policy change that needs to happen, or sometimes administrative regulation change within our Child Protective Services. It really just depends. But we have been successful in getting laws changed or funding put in the state budget to better protect kids and families and better support and provide those protective factors for our kids and families. And then as we grow and develop, since we've gotten a 10-year commitment from the foundation that supports us, we are going to continue deepening the work that we're already doing, but also looking at more and better prevention and resilience strategies as we look to research and best practice and the data for the families in our state. And then also, engaging more and more organizations, individuals. We're really interested in getting the business communities on board to talk about resilience and to talk about how to better support our parents who are in the workforce, who might need an extra hand in maintaining their job, or who may need an extra hand in really helping to, better coordinate childcare so that they can show up to work on time. So we're looking at a lot of different strategies, and there's a ton of different work going on, but it's all coordinated in-house by us. But the work is really happening as a result of our partners. So that is kind of Face It in a nutshell. Like I said, you guys are welcome to go onto our website and order materials. We've got lots of different things that you can either download or we can order them or send them out to you. And then this is the Dominic Capello, the Safety and Success, the Resilience Builders. This is their website to learn more about them, safetyandsuccess.org. And they're phenomenal.
Yeah, that definitely interested in that. That sounds like something to explore. And can you share with me your PowerPoint as well that I can get out to my people?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Any questions for Kentucky, either from our remote sites or from our hub? No? Nothing? Okay. Well, if you think of something, let us know. Thank you so much, Kentucky. Thank you, Shannon. Great job. All right. And then our last state that we're going to hear from, but certainly not least, we have Allison Halverson. She's the public education manager from SCAN of Northern Virginia. So now we're going to turn controls over to Allison. We see your screen looking good. And of course, you have to speak loudly.
Can you hear me okay?
Should be unmuted. Yes, perfect.
Oh, great.
Excellent.
Okay, so my name's Allison Halverson. I'm the public education manager at SCAN of Northern Virginia. We are a regional child abuse prevention nonprofit, so we cover 5 jurisdictions here in Northern Virginia. we have 3 different programs out of our organizations. There's many scans across the nation, but they all work independently from each other and they all look a little bit different. So our organization has our CASA program, or the Court Appointed Special Advocate program for Alexandria and Arlington court systems. We have a parent education program. So we provide free parenting classes all throughout Northern Virginia. The 2 parenting programs that we use are the Nurturing Parenting Program and the Strengthening Families Program. And we also have a very diverse population here in Northern Virginia, so we provide family reunification classes as well for families who have been recently, within the past 12 months, reunified with their children to help them work through some of the things that come up with that reunification. And then we also have our public education program, which I manage, and we have many different sections of that program. We have our Allies in Prevention Coalition, which I'll talk to you guys more about in a few minutes here. We also have an Operation Safe Babies program where we focus on safe sleep and being able to partner with community partners to provide safe sleep education, as well as cribs and baby boxes. We have the No Hit Zone program, which is actually based out of Gunderson Health System, which I'll go into more later. Every year we have a child abuse prevention campaign that we launch in April. And then we also do child sexual abuse prevention through Darkness to Light Stewards of Children's training throughout the region. So we'll start by talking about our Allies group. The Allies in Prevention Coalition started about 15 years ago, and it transformed over time. It originally started as a way to just gather all of the child welfare partners and advocates in Northern Virginia to see how we can be supportive for them and connect everyone together. Over time, it's morphed into more of a learning community. We have over 100 members as part of our coalition, represented from all 5 of our Northern Virginia jurisdictions that we cover. We get together 4 times a year. And when we, for hour-and-a-half-long meetings, we spread our meetings throughout Northern Virginia, so they're never at our site, but we try to put them in our different localities so we can reach our entire region. And when we meet, we usually spend about, and you can see here what our topics are, we spend about an hour providing our partners with some new education. And so we've done infant mental health, the importance of routines. We do advocacy day event every November. Our most recent one was understanding behavior in children. And then we have our advocacy day coming up here in November, or this month actually. And when we get together, we usually have a guest speaker come through, talk about the topic, and then we share any updates. We do some networking. And then SCAN typically creates materials, educational materials to go along with the topic that the speaker presented on. So we'll have a fact sheet, or for the importance of routines, we had this really great routines card that we provided our network members. So we try to just make sure that they're not only learning something new, but they can also walk away with some sort of new tool at the end of that training as well. We really like to make sure that the trainings meet the needs of our partners. So we don't pick our training topics. We will present a series of topics to our network members and ask them, what would you like to hear from us this year, and dive into. We do that around January is when we do the voting on that, and then our network members let us know we want to hear these 4 topics, and then that's what we present on throughout the year. And then we have our Allies in Prevention awards every April, which is a really big event for us. We usually have 150 to 250 people come. We serve lunch. It's during the weekday. We always do it at a nicer restaurant and venue. And then our network members, they actually vote on who the Ally in Prevention Award winner is for their jurisdiction. And we award one person from each of our jurisdictions and honor them during this luncheon. We also use our luncheon as our opportunity to launch our child abuse prevention campaign that we're rolling out for that year, and provide our partners with any resources, tools, or materials that we have for the campaign for that year. Or we use that as an opportunity to launch any new initiatives that we're going to be doing moving forward in the year. And so our Allies Coalition is a really incredible, strong group of people. We usually get about, I would say, 25 to 40 members at each meeting, just depending on what the topic is. And then mostly all of our members come to our luncheon every April. And so one of our campaigns that we have done, which is not our current campaign, it was called Kids Needs Connections. And this campaign was from 2014 to 2016. So we did this for 2 years. And during that campaign period, we really focused on trying to build resilient children, resilient families, resilient communities. And so you can see here, we put out a lot of materials for that campaign. We have connection assessments for children, parents, and professionals. And then a big project that we did for that is this series here, Children's Stories That Build Resiliency and Young Adult Stories That Build Resiliency. So for those, oops, hold on one second here. If you go and let's open up this one. We have a list of stories here that we provide, as well as a list of questions to go with those stories. So for each question, for each story, you can see an overview of the story and then questions to explore with children after you read the story with them to help build and promote resilience, as well as the same for our young adult book series. We use this a lot more when we originally launched it a couple of years ago, but we continue to use this. We like to really promote it, of course, during the month of April, but we have a lot of teachers who reach out to us and say, can someone from SCAN come and present a book and go through the questions, or if they don't want us to present, a lot of the times they will ask us more about how it works and how we do it, and they do it themselves and kind of report back to us what their students have said and the value that they got from going through that exercise. And then we also have different games as well here too that we've come up with to help professionals and parents and children build resiliency. One thing I'll say about the children's stories that build resiliency, one of the ways we like to utilize it now is during the month of April, we will plan and schedule different readings at libraries, and we invite our regional CPS staff to be the ones who actually do a reading and a story time at the libraries with one of these books. They love it. They love it for a couple of different reasons. They like being able to engage with the community in a different way than they normally do in their role. And they really like to engage with children who aren't being abused or neglected, which is different from the typical population that they serve. And so we have found that by setting up these story times at libraries and inviting our CPS workers to come and actually do it, it's actually, it's a self-care activity for them as well, for them to see, look, there's lots of healthy and happy children in our community, and it's not just the abused and neglected children that you guys serve every day. So that has been a really powerful activity for them to help re-energize them, especially during the month of April. So I definitely would love you guys to take a look. You all of the book lists are there, all of the worksheets are there. We keep copies of the books actually here at our office. And then we even have labels made. So I don't know if you can see this, but we even have labels made. So on the inside of the book, you can actually just have it printed off on a sticker here, and you don't even have to have a worksheet. You can just use this as your guide. So that's our children's books. And then we also wrote a white paper on how using these stories actually helps build resilience in children. So you can see here, there's some data and some research behind that, and our thought process behind building these stories and how it impacts children and families positively, as well as some calls to action there too. So that's a really great resource to use if you're trying to advocate for bringing in this story time for someone who might not understand the value of it or how it can be utilized for children and families. And then we have our No Hit Zone. So this is actually a new program for us. We launched the No Hit Zone in the month of April, this past April. And so we used our Allies in Prevention Coalition, our luncheon, to talk about the No Hit Zone initiative and to get some excitement around it. So a No Hit Zone is not something we made up. It's actually something that was developed in 2005 by Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. And then in 2014, the Gunderson Health Institute took this program over, and they made this really wonderful platform so anyone can become a no-hit zone by using the training materials. We can network with each other to talk about challenges and successes and all different things. And then they have all the no-hit zone implementation tools and resources available as well. We really wanted to bring the no-hit zone to our community, but we also recognized that our communities and the partners might need some support with this. So we decided to provide technical support. We went out and did the no-hit zone training. We talked to staff about what it meant to be a no-hit zone. If a program didn't have policies in place about violence or corporal punishment or hitting, we helped them to develop those policies and protocols. And then we also gave them the literature that goes with it, and we paid for that and provided it to them. So you can see that this is a no-hit zone sign. There's extra literature about positive parenting. There's literature about corporal punishment. And so we really dived in deep to try to promote this initiative throughout our community. We actually ended up having 10 different partners, and we wanted to pilot this in one specific jurisdiction and not spread it out throughout the entire region. So we've piloted this in Prince William County, in the Prince William area here, which I know that means nothing to you guys, but it's a very large county. It's one of our largest geographic counties. And so we were really excited to see what that would look like in a larger county versus Alexandria, where I am, which is much smaller. We're not even a county, we're the city of Alexandria. And so it was actually a huge success. We were able to get 10 sites to commit to this. They were child welfare sites, so we had some DSS offices implement no-hit zones. We had a couple of our homeless shelters in that area implement no-hit zones. We had our health department, the WIC programs, implement the no-hit zone in their waiting areas. We had a food pantry do it. So all these different areas where families are visiting and they might see it, we wanted it to have that same messaging throughout the region. And so it was really great. It was very challenging. I will say when you come in and you train even staff who work in that area about the negative effects of corporal punishment, and about the research, it really does push back on some people's personal beliefs and values around corporal punishment. And so it was really great to be able to go through those conversations with the staff and help them understand what those facts are and statistics are. And I even got reports from our champions on the site saying that they were shocked by how much conversation putting a no hit zone poster and having the training really stirred up, not only between staff, but between the staff and then the clients that they serve, and that they found that they had a lot of really great opportunities to talk about positive parenting because of the signs, to make referrals to parenting classes. And so they really loved it. And it was really cool to see it in so many different places in the community, and it being the same signage and having that really strong unified goal of stopping hitting and promoting a safer and ultimately healthier community. So the No Hit Zone is great if you guys are interested in starting it. Gunderson Health Institute is incredibly helpful. They answer any questions that you have, give you all of the tools that you need. And like I said, we had launched this in the month of April, being Child Abuse Prevention Month, and then we've kept it going, and everyone has really taken to it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Any questions for Allison?
Is there a cost associated?
Oh,
You can just ask her.
I'll repeat it. Is there a cost associated?
Okay.
Is there
Yeah,
a cost?
so, yes, there is a cost associated with it. So we're able to get grant funding to mitigate that cost for the sites that we were providing technical support to. The only cost associated with being a no-hit zone is if you order any of their signage and materials. So there's not a cost associated with, getting access to the training module that they have online. And the training module really focuses on the prevention of hitting, and it focuses on recognizing early signs of parental distress and providing a positive intervention at that point, so it never even gets to the point of hitting. But it also focuses on how to talk to parents about hitting and corporal punishment if you witness that in your area of being a no-hit zone. So the cost would be associated with if you wanted to purchase any of these materials and any of the implementation tools, but there's not a cost to just look at the materials and look at the training.
Any questions from our remote sites or our online folks for Allison? No? Anything? All right, well, thank you so much. That was super interesting.
Thank you.
Great job, Allison. So
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And also, I forgot to send you the list of who's in attendance, but I will get that to you. One of the things I wanted to mention about Allison's program, where they were having the CPS workers go and read to the kids in the library. Just recently, I had the opportunity to spend about 7 or 8 hours with my Casa Kids CPS worker who was leaving CPS and her new CPS worker who was taking over her case. This will be her 5th CPS worker, and every worker she's had has been fabulous, but they all leave. And one of the things that this young lady said to me, and I say young because, compared to me, she's young. She said, the one thing I learned in this job over the last year is how to be hated every day and just let it roll off your back. And I thought to myself, wow, how hard is that? To be able to have to deal with that. And the other, so I just thought that was a great idea and a great program, just on so many levels. It's just a positive way to interact with CPS. I never thought about that's how they approached their work, that, every interaction, the person's hating them. That's a tough thing to deal with. But anyway, really great resources. So now we are going to introduce our in-house speaker here in our hub, Natalie Audage from Yolo County Children's Alliance. For our online folks, the handouts are that Natalie will be speaking about are on your materials section, and we'll get you her website address as well. And I'm going to turn over the lavalier. Thank you. I'm so. Yes, we will. Let me get rid of this. Hold on one moment. Okay, and that's for you. Do you want to clip it on? Sure. Okay. I know, that was my problem. I couldn't. Oh, it's got this little noogie right
Oh.
there.
You know what? I'm going to put my
Yeah.
jacket back on. And I'm going to put it in my.
It's cold enough here anyway. Hold on, we're switching over. No problem. Take your time.
Easier to do that.
And you'll stay
And
toasty.
stay warmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And then this you can just, want me to clip it on?
Sure. Thank you very much.
All right. And let's make sure this puppy's working. Yep.
Perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for having me. As it says up there, I'm Natalie Audage, the Child Abuse Prevention Coordinator for Yolo County Children's Alliance. And I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about the parent education guides that we've released for Child Abuse Prevention Month for the last 4 years. So now we'll have a little delay here. When Barbara asked me to speak, she said, how did you come up with these ideas? And so I wanted to just do a little bit of history. YCCA, before I came on in 2014, YCCA is Yolo County Children's Alliance, the organization that I work for, released toolkits for CAP Month every year. And they had things like parenting tips, coloring pages, and links to National CAP Month materials. And then when I was hired, I brought a public health background. I really love writing, and I especially love synthesizing research-based information because of the public health background. So I was really excited about the idea of expanding the toolkits to provide parents with easily accessible information so that they can develop skills themselves to become better parents. And I know we've talked a lot about the Strengthening Families framework, and I know you're all familiar with it, but I was definitely inspired by YCCA's dedication to the Strengthening Families framework as the way that we approach child abuse prevention. So all those things came together, and I started writing parenting guides that focus on strengthening families. So if this were a different audience, I would be talking about the Strengthening Families framework right now, but I think we've covered it, and you all know the 5 factors. So I'll just say that all of our parenting guides align with and are informed by the Strengthening Families framework, and each one has at least one protective factor that it supports. And so the guides are really supposed to be focusing on what families have and what they need to be healthy and strong. So as I said, for the past 4 years, we've released a new parent guide each April. The goal of all of these guides has really been to prevent child abuse and neglect by supporting one of those protective factors that I talked about. We're also hoping that these guides give an opportunity for providers and parents to have conversations about the topics that we're bringing up. So it's meant to be a tool for providers to use that too. And just some other characteristics of the guides. We're definitely targeting parents and caregivers. It's targeting primary prevention. We're trying to stop child abuse before it occurs, and they're meant for the general population. It's a broad appeal and cultural flexibility. We do translate the documents into Spanish and Russian because those are the 2 main languages in Yolo County other than English. It's very strengths-based, which is really what I love so much about doing these. We do not mention child abuse directly, which I know other people have talked about too, but we're really trying to not alienate anybody. We want everybody to identify with these resources, and we always provide a call to action. And what I mean by that is we really want to give parents something to do. We want them to be able to build a skill, learn something that can help them feel empowered to become better parents. And I'm excited that we received a Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Award from the Office of Child Abuse Prevention this past spring for these guides. So the ones I'm going to talk about. So Barbara asked me to go through the process of how these get written and produced. So the hardest part sometimes is picking a topic. And we've definitely gotten help from various groups in the past. Now the Child Abuse Prevention Council in Yolo County chooses from a list of potential topics. The potential topics I get from a survey that I actually, I'll talk more about later, but a survey that I send out to partners after Child Abuse Prevention Month to see what topics they think would be good for the next year. And then looking at those, kind of develop a list, and then the CAPC chooses. Once that happens, I spend time writing and researching and getting feedback from a lot of different partners. I think there were 10 or 12 last year. I try to always make sure mental health, public health, child welfare services, and at least some of the people who review it are parents, either directly parents or in their roles. Professionally, they also look at it from the lens of a parent. And then we have a graphic designer on staff who's designed and laid out the materials. We have gotten them professionally translated because we wanted to make sure they were accurate, and we tried doing it in-house, and it was pretty logistically difficult because everybody has their day job. So we did go with a professional translation company. And then we, after 1 year of me sitting at the photocopier for a long time, we decided to print them professionally as well. And what was really interesting about that was the printer informed me that the trifold brochure, which you'll see on 2 of them, was actually cheaper because it's 1 piece of paper as opposed to the 3 pieces of paper that you might use, 3 or 4 pieces that you might use for individual pages. So next, there's the fun part of disseminating the document, which always happens in April for Child Abuse Prevention Month. And our dissemination strategy has always been to go to families serving providers. So we're really taking the perspective that parents are more likely to use and be receptive to information if it comes from somebody that they already know and trust. And so we basically sent these materials to families serving providers in our county by email, by mail. I go to a lot of partner meetings in April and distribute them, and then do some Facebook as well. And all of the materials are available on that website. I know it says a different website on the last slide that you have, but they actually go to the same place. So this is just easier to remember. It says for families. So I also want to talk about evaluation because everybody always wants to know, have these things been evaluated? And the short answer is no. The short answer is no because we don't have the resources for extensive evaluation. The other piece that I would say is these guides get used in a lot of different ways by different people. And so, you know, if somebody's going to be just handing them out, that's one kind of, you know, and just reading it, that's really different than somebody who actually spends time talking about the guide with the parent versus somebody who might use these materials to actually create an hour-long class on it. So it's really hard to even think about how you would necessarily parse out the evaluation of that. But I will say that many of our reviewers are parents, and I've developed a really cheap proxy for evaluation. Basically, this electronic partner survey that I send out to all of the partners after April, I ask questions and I try to get their perspective on whether the document was relevant to parents, whether it was easy to read, whether it was a useful tool. I ask if they do work directly with parents, if the document was helpful in their work with parents, if they gave the parents document, if they gave the parents information, what format did they use? Did they send them to the website? Did they give them a hard copy? Did they print it out themselves? And then I also I ask whether they've used the conversation starters for providers, which I'll talk to you about in just a minute. And we've gotten really positive feedback over the years, and our response rate is always fabulous. If you all have sent out surveys, sometimes that happens, right? I think it was about 17% last year. But we also look at website hits as one of our proxies for evaluation, and they have gone up in the last few years, which has made me really happy. So as more people are finding out about it, it's really nice to see those numbers climb. So I mentioned the conversation starters for providers, and I want to just talk a little bit about it. These are the documents that look like this in your packet that you might have received. And if you are doing this remotely, I just want you to know that the conversation starters for providers are not on that original website, the For Families, but there is a link at the bottom of that. It says if you're a provider, then you can actually click on that and it'll take you to a description of what the purpose of these campaigns are, as well as links to these documents. So the conversation starters for providers is exactly what it says. We're trying to get providers to have a conversation with parents about these topics. And so this still comes from that perspective that parents are more likely to use materials if they get discussed, if they've if they've had a conversation about them, but also if they have somebody prompting them on how they might use the materials. So the first side is starting a conversation. So this is before anybody has ever looked at the document. You're trying to just get the concept in their minds, and there's this little thing about how to introduce it on most of them. The second side is once the parent has used or read the information, and it's how to continue a conversation. I will say in the evaluation survey that I send out, this has been kind of a weak point. I don't think that many of the providers who have answered the survey have used these materials. I still think it's really important to write them because I really want providers to know that we're hoping that they engage with parents more than just handing them out. And I also will say I gave a training on, a workshop with parents on one of the guides this past year, and I felt like this sort of made that so much easier because the questions were already created, so you can use that for a training if you're going to talk to parents about it. So now I'm going to talk about the guides themselves. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go from the early years first, is Talk Plus Play equals Connect. And you should each have a copy of the guide in English on our website. They're also in Spanish and Russian, and you can download those if you'd like. This one is our longest guide, and the reason that it's our longest guide is we used it for 2 years. We did 8 pages the first time, and then the second year we added times to connect. Because we wanted to expand this to give people more ideas. So I'm just going to briefly tell you what's in it. The whole idea here is, we're trying to be super positive. None of the ideas in here cost any money. We're really, trying to make sure that parents just understand what it is they can do to connect with their kids. And so the document will go through why talking is important. And so some of the ideas there's definitely information because not everybody knows this, but children learn through their play. So we're trying to emphasize how important play is as well. And then the times to connect explanation sheet, we basically chose 3 times in the day, morning, mealtime, and bedtime, as excellent times for parents to connect. And these are also times that can be rather stressful. So we were trying to provide some of those positive, simple ideas that parents can use for those times. And the rest of the document is actually divided by ages. So for babies, toddlers, preschoolers, school age, and teenagers, there are tips that are age appropriate for how you might talk to somebody in that age group. There are playing ideas on one side, and then the whole other side is all these times to connect ideas. So at morning, mealtime, and bedtime, what you might do. And just a few ideas. We never expect everybody to love all of the ideas. The whole point is you kind of go through and see what might work for you. I will say my kids got a hold of this and we're going through it and saying, we don't do that one and you do that one. So, it's fine for kids to read it as well. And then there's a reading list on the back, and we got the library to give us some recommendations for kids and parents on what, feelings and topics that might be relevant to parents to talk about with their kids as well. And I loved that idea that you could also have questions to go with the books that you've identified. And I don't have that, but all of these were available at our library. So I love that idea, and I think I might take it to my library. So the second, and I forgot to mention 2 other things. One is this document supports knowledge of parenting and child development and social and emotional competence of children. And also that because this guide was so long, we couldn't print huge numbers of copies. So we did encourage people to just either print out the whole thing themselves, or you could just do the age appropriate pages, right? If you have somebody who's got a toddler, you could just print those 2 pages, and that would be a good way to do it. So the next guide is on self-care. It's called Make Time for Yourself, a self-care guide for busy parents. And I wrote this because we all know, and I know we're going to talk more about self-care, but we all know that parents who make time for themselves have more time and energy to spend with their kids. and are better able to care for them. So this document really starts by making the case for self-care, because a lot of parents, it can be really hard to prioritize and to take time away from other things. So in this one, we're explaining why self-care is really important for the parent and the child. And then the whole middle, so this is that trifold that I was telling you about. The whole middle is actually all ideas. And again, you're not going to necessarily do all these self-care ideas, but it's a menu. And the first side is, because we know it's really hard to prioritize, they're all under 5 minutes. So that's the first whole page. The second page is really looking at ones that might take more time, because we don't want to forget those. And the last page is self-care that you can do with your child. And the reason we included this is because we know not all parents can say, I need a break from my kid and I'm going to go out and do something to take care of myself, but you can do a lot to take care of yourself with your kid. And the ideas involve calming the mind, connecting with supportive relatives and friends, exercising, laughing, finding activities that bring joy, and getting enough sleep. We all know that one. And then the back has some resources, and some of them are national resources, some are some references. And I will say all of these documents, if you look at footnotes, tell you where the information was gathered. But there's some particular ones that I wanted to point out on the back. And then there's some local resources, and on this one and the next one that I'll talk about, we also have sort of hotlines and things like that if people are struggling and need more help than this kind of guide would provide. And this one supports parental resilience and social connections. And I definitely wanted to do that because we had focused so much on the child and Talk Plus Play Equals Connect, and this was a way to complement it with what the parent might need to feel supported. The next one is the one that we released this spring on healthy expressions of emotions. So it's called Weathering the Storms, a guide to healthy expressions of emotions for parents and children. And this guide is designed to help parents teach their children to identify and express feelings in a healthy way, while also developing the skills to better regulate their own emotions. And it was a little complicated for me to write because I wanted to make sure that I was addressing both the children and the parents in a way that felt empathetic and real and was not sort of artificial. So hopefully I got that covered. But the beginning was to just talk about identifying emotions with kids. And there's so many ways to do that. But so this is again a menu, 7 different ways that parents might talk about emotions with their kids, starting pretty early. And then there's the power of empathy. I think that's just so important for parents to understand empathy for others, empathy for themselves, empathy for their kid, and helping their child understand how to empathize with people. The whole middle is about the storm, right? So the first page, and sort of the colors do reflect that. The first page is talking about when clouds are gathering. So this is before a storm has happened, right? What can you do to pull things back to try to make it so that a storm doesn't happen? And so there are a lot of calming strategies that parents and kids can use. The middle is the storm, because we can't always prevent storms from happening. But the emphasis here is really on not talking, on just being present and making sure that everybody's safe, because the storm has to kind of take its course before you can actually talk about it. So this idea that we can sit through the storm, that then we get to this place where we would actually respond to the emotions in the calm after the storm. And that's where we talk about validating emotions, setting limits, talking about alternatives, and making sure that we also think about this last piece, which is forecasting tomorrow's weather, really looking about predicting emotions. We are trying to think about what led to the storm in the first place and how we could maybe have that not happen the next time. It's also the document is intended to normalize storms. We want to make sure parents understand you're never going to eliminate them from either yourself or your child. It's ways to handle them better. And then we do have resources on the back, including some books. Again, these were from the library, as well as websites, and then some hotlines. And in this one, because this has a lot more, it's more related to mental health, I tried to include more mental health resources, national and local as well. And that one supports parental resilience, knowledge of parenting and child development, and social and emotional competence of kids. The guide that I'm currently working on is going to be on resilience. The CAPC decided that we should talk about ACEs and resilience in a document. So I've started working on it, and I'm just going to tell you kind of what's covered, and it'll be on that same website in April. So we're going to look at stress, talking about normal and ordinary stress and how important that is, but then also intense stressors. I've been working on this and have decided not to use the word toxic stress. I think it can be a really good descriptor for providers, but for parents, I think it can actually be kind of triggering. And so I think using the word intense is the word that we're kind of going with to also address adverse childhood experiences without using those words as well. So it's this fine line, because I think talking to parents about some of these things, you don't want them to feel that, this fatalistic approach where everything's going to be bad. We want to talk about how much you can heal at any age and stage. And so that's going to be the focus, the healing part. We're just going to talk a little bit about the adversity that might come before that. So the rest of the document is going to be strategies to protect oneself and one's kids from intense stressors and ways to heal from challenging or negative experiences at any age. Of course, the first thing will be to talk about reducing and addressing intense stressors. So in other words, getting help, because that's really a priority. And then the rest of the document will look at things like the power of relationships for children and adults, as well as taking care of our bodies and brains. There's definitely overlap with some of these guides, I just want to point out, but I think it's okay to repeat things that need to be repeated. So we'll talk about sleep and food and exercise, mental health care, positive home environment, regulation and self-care, and then have resources as well. And I'm working with members of Resilient YOLO, which I understand you had Gail Kennedy come last time from ACES Connection, but I'm working with them to make sure the messages are accurate and appropriate and sort of fit with what they're doing as well. Next slide, I'm so sorry, but we actually, I was gonna talk to you about how you could tailor our guides, but unfortunately the person who does this just left our organization and I do not know how to use Illustrator. She has done a great job with all of the graphic design, but I will let Barbara know if this is available in the future. And for now, you can always download that information, download the guides from our website. Oh, I went too far. Sorry. So I actually, these are not in, I didn't print these out, but I just wanted you to know about two other guides that you can find on our website. These were not released for Child Abuse Prevention Month. One is called Choosing a Child Care Provider, and this is just a 2-page document, but it's really designed to help parents and caregivers make a good choice when they choose a child care provider and empower them to ask questions. I wrote this document after a child care provider had sexually abused a child in Yolo County. And again, it doesn't talk about abuse and neglect in the document itself. The intent is to really get parents to understand that they have the rights to ask questions of providers. So they're questions that are related to supervision, the child care site, hygiene and safety, but we're really trying to encourage parents to trust themselves, not only because they know their child best, which we all know, but also because they should feel comfortable asking questions if things are not feeling right to them. So kind of that trusting your gut. So this is an effort to try to get parents to realize that that's really an appropriate and really good goal for them as well. And then there's also another guide that's not directly for parents. It's for anybody who's working or affiliated with kids. And this is called Protecting Children, Reporting Child Abuse and Neglect. And I wrote this with the help of Yolo County Child Welfare Services, and it covers who should report. So we talk about mandated reporters and community members, signs of child abuse and neglect, and commercially sexually exploited children, CSEC, who to contact, and CWS definitely wanted us to emphasize that they welcome consultation calls. I think this was one of the ideas, was to try to get people to really be engaged with CWS as partners, and so we emphasize that. Also, what you should be prepared to report. We're trying to break down that barrier, the intimidation. factor for somebody who needs to report, and then additional resources. And this one's available on our website, but it's under the Child Abuse Prevention Council, not under the For Families, because it's geared towards a different, yes. It's 4 pages. Yeah, so the inside pages are all of the signs and symptoms, and then the information about reporting and things are on the other pages. And this one, it does have our CWS numbers on it, but you could definitely tailor that to yours. And I think that one's all. So yeah, so my contact information is here. And you are welcome to contact me with any questions in the future too. The 2, you'll see on the bottom of yours, those are the 2 links for the parenting guides themselves, as well as the conversation starters for providers. And if you want to get to that reporting document, that's under the Child Abuse Prevention Council. And I'm happy to send that too if you would like the direct link. But I hope these materials are helpful to you. And are there any questions?
Any questions in the hub for Natalie? No? Okay. Any questions? Oops. I guess I should need to come over here. I can use this now.
Oh, okay.
Any questions from our online people or our remote sites? Not yet? Okay. So all the material, I know this is a lot of information and everybody's like, but remember 2 things. One, I'm going to send you the highlights, which will have a link to the recording so you can go back and fast forward through me and just go to the part you want to listen to. And then I'll also send you all the material via email. So you'll have these links or live links in the PowerPoint and so forth. Okay. So now is our time to share among our region, because one of the other things that I really liked about, I think the Northern Virginia presentation is, we're developing a regional group. She was talking about having 100 people. I have an email list now of over 150 people that have either registered or attended learning communities. So remember that, when you're thinking about outreach and so forth, we're building that list. But anyway, I wanted to spend some time learning from each other. So I think we'll start with the hub. We have folks that are at Sierra County who are going to talk a little bit about some of the Child Abuse Prevention Month activities that have been successful for them and not so successful. So Sierra and Alpine are going to share in a little bit, but I thought we'd start here. And so, Robin, are you willing to be our first victim and talk about Calaveras County? Okay, so you remember the mic for the folks remote.
So I'm Robin Davis, and I work with First 5, and then under the umbrella of First 5 is Prevent Child Abuse Council. And so for 2 years, this will be the 3rd year that we are going to be partnering with Prevent Child Abuse Council. We'll partner with CASA, working on special advocates in Calaveras.
Oh, wait 1 second. It is on. Can you hear it now? Yeah, you have to talk.
And so CASA and Prevent Child Abuse Council were partnering to, bring greater awareness during April for Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so one of the primary things that we were promoting is called the Light of Hope. And the first year that we did it, it's I guess has been done with CASA communities and as like a candlelight vigil. We had all these little candles, and it wasn't dark, and we ended up not using the candles at all. And so last year we said, okay, we're going to call it Light of Hope because that's really what this is about. It's a focus, but we're not doing the candlelight vigil. So what we did, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit because we did start with a proclamation that you bring to the Board of Supervisors, and we also did proclamations for our school districts and spoke with them about what it was and had them adopt the proclamation. So they understood and they helped us with outreach. When we went to the board, we had everybody wear blue. We had all the blue pinwheels, and it was a packed house. So we had a really good response. All of our partners came, and we had 3 speakers who were part of our Light of Hope. And so they talked about their personal stories, which was a lot more interesting than me talking up there about child abuse, which I did a little bit of. But so in preparation for that, we hired a storytelling coach, and she does conferences about storytelling. And so we had her meet with as a group with our 4 speakers to really kind of hone what they wanted to talk about. So our focus were protective factors, and that's really what we pushed out into the community. And each speaker came from a totally different avenue. So we had 2 speakers who were involved with CPS, had their children removed, went through recovery or are in recovery, and they actually have become parent partners with our CPS. And they're the first parent partners that we have. So they were great to have on board. And we had a young guy who was a victim of domestic violence, had 2 young children, and he talked about how the domestic violence affected his children and about services that he received to, come to this new change, healing, and hope. And then we had a person who adopted a child through child welfare system and who went through a lot of trauma and, several homes before she was adopted. And so what we did with this coach was we looked at when they had their story, they honed it down to about 5 to 10 minutes. We said 7 minutes or so. And we looked at what are the protective factors that were addressed here. So like say for the guy with DV, his children were in counseling. And so he was really focused on how did this affect his kids? So social emotional competence of children, the resiliency, of course, the social connections, the people in recovery had to change all their social connections. You guys know about that. So that was a big piece of it. I'll just show you, grab. So we did have a couple of things. I don't have, all the different things that we put out, but we had magnets this is a hand. It's kind of for first 5 hand, but it's got the 5 protective factors on it. People love magnets. And so it kind of reinforced what we were continuing to talk about. And then we had our lapel pins, which were the pinwheel pins. And we put them on little cards that have the 5 protective factors. And they explain it a bit and what they show to enhance child development and reduce the risk of child abuse and neglect. We put on here that the pinwheel is a national symbol of the happy and healthy childhood that all children deserve. And had our contact info. We also had resource tables out at the Light of Hope. So we had all of our partners come. Some of them brought food, infused water. We had youth mentoring there, CPS, behavioral health, CalFresh, lots of people with resources so they could walk around. And we also partnered with our master gardeners. So we held the event in their garden, which is just so peaceful. When people were talking, the birds were singing, and it was really nice. And then another big thing that we did was we had a display on a very prominent corner in Calaveras at the corner of the Highway 49 and the CalWorks building, or Health and Human Services building. We put close to 700 pinwheels, so the blue pinwheels, and then a big, huge banner that said, every day you can prevent child abuse. And I think that probably got the most feedback of what people really noticed. I mean, there were articles in the paper and other things, but that was the one that people would say that stood out. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It's kind of the gist of it for really what we did. This year, we're going to do the proclamation. We're going to do the display. We'll do the Light of Hope, and we're taking Natalie's Be the One campaign that she had talked about in one of our meetings, and I thought, man, that's really positive, and what a great idea that children need at least one caring adult to be successful. And so we really want to take that and try to run with that and see what we come up with. So that's it.
Cool stuff. Tracy, will you come to the front? Come to the light. Tracy Carlton, also our hostess with the mostest here, is going to tell us about Amador.
Hi, everybody. Like Robin, Erica and I wear 2 hats for child abuse prevention and First 5. We sit in the same chair, but have, depending on what second you're talking to us, which hat is on, sometimes both. So for April, I'm going to talk about last year, what we did. We made a calendar also that had all the things that we were focusing on that we put out, and I'm just going to go through some of those things. For a number of years, we focused on the period of purple crying and knitting for a cause. And so we had an abundance of hats. So this year we decided to change it up a little bit, but we still kept that as a small focus to let folks know that knitting purple hats, we get them out through our home visiting program, through Public Health, Baby Welcome Wagon. Thank you, Donna. She's not in the room anymore. And also through the hospital, through their birthing department, all the new parents get a purple cap with the period of purple crying information about that. So that's been a focus, and was still a small focus for this year. We also did the proclamation with the Board of Supervisors, and we had pinwheels that we gave out at our Celebrate Our Children, which is an annual event for Week of the Young Child. We give the smallest kids the pinwheels that can't do the actual hands-on activities. The younger kids get the pinwheels. So that's when we get them out. This year also, OCAP sent out flags to all the different counties, memorial flags to recognize child abuse. And so we had a ceremony here in front of our building and included the preschool kids. And we focused on, instead of the memorial aspect, the honoring of kids, kind of give it a more positive spin. And I would say that that was the turnout wasn't great. I was hoping for a wonderful public ceremony and having the kids and the flag, and we had about 5 adults, I think, was it? But the kids were great. And so I would like next year when we do that to have a little bit more of a public push to get folks to come. So we got to figure out, we had food, and I thought, well, food's always a good draw. So we got to work on that for this year. Excuse me. Our big push though, last year our council decided to focus on ACEs and trauma-informed care, and knowing that there were different efforts around the county, but feeling like it really needed to be brought together so everybody was talking to each other and not isolated efforts. So we brought somebody, Judy Knapp, a lot of you know her in El Dorado County. She got us going last year. We've been meeting monthly, and our group is called Resilient Amador. Thanks, Resilient Yellow, for your, I think there's a Resilient Sacramento also. And met monthly for a year. We've got a steering committee, and we just had in October our first ever kickoff. We had 50 people from the county, which we felt was a fabulous turnout. It was also competing with another event up at the casino, a community event. So we had a really good turnout. So we're going to be working on building resilience in Amador County around ACEs and trauma-informed care, bringing trainings and workshops, policy, advocacy, education, all those different aspects. And we're just getting started. We will be forming work groups in the new calendar year to focus on those different areas. So we focused on that for Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. It was a kickoff to kind of announce Resilient Amador. And thanks to strategies, we had a training here, a 2-day training, day and a half, on trauma-informed care and ACEs. So Carrie and Lydia were awesome. Bring them to your counties for training. They're fabulous. We got great feedback. We were really fortunate that we have one school district in the county, luckily, so it makes our efforts a little bit easier. And our superintendent was completely on board, and that they had one of those training days was their leadership day for their principals and vice principals, and they brought the entire group here. So we had from our district special ed, we had counselors, we had principals, vice principals. It was an amazing turnout, and the superintendent herself. So we just felt like, and the county recognizes that was a huge accomplishment to get the schools on board and get this conversation happening in the schools. So we're very excited about that. that's been our focus. And I think that for us, that was a really great subject to a way for Child Abuse Prevention Month to get that conversation out into the community. So let me think if there's something else that I wanted to share. I think I covered everything. It seems like a lot. All right.
And I love the idea, you were saying about looking at dates that school personnel are available, because that's a real challenge, to get people. So that's a great tip. So I think we're going to now go to Sierra County. Tammy, are you able? We can't see them, can we? Yes. Oh, we have a question.
We have a question from Tamara. Who was the storytelling coach?
Oh, the storytelling coach.
Her name is BZ Smith, and she's in Tuolumne County, out of Sonora.
So how do you spell
It's her name is like Byzantine, but she goes by BZ. The 2 letters, yeah. Smith. And it's I'm trying to think of what the storytelling group is called. I know if you look up Sonora or Tuolumne County, it'll probably come up.
Well, I can also I can put it in the highlights document if you can grab me the name, and I'll make sure you all get that. Thank you for the question. You're going to do Loyalton. It's Tammy Muldoon.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes.
Okay,
Go
great.
ahead.
Well, this is embarrassing, but I don't think we do this very well. I'm here looking for good ideas and ways to inspire more people to get involved. We do all the usual things. I just don't think they've been real effective here. So I got some good ideas today, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. Well, that's why we have a learning community. The idea is because everyone does struggle with the involvement. And, you were saying, I think you started one event you did, you had hardly anybody. And then next year you had 50 people. So sometimes it just takes trying to find those right connections in the community. The other thing I want to apologize to the group for, I forgot to remind Gail Kennedy to be on the line to talk to us about how we can use ACES Connection, because I know, Amador, you have a website, you have a community on ACES Connection, and we also have we have a Sierra region community on the ACES Connection website. So that's another way to communicate, again, social media, etc. And it's a way that you can advertise things that you're doing and that are happening in your community. And anyone can post. You just have to join my community, I think, to post. So it's there's no cost or anything. You just create a profile and then log on. And we have the Sierra region, and then there's the Resilient Amador, and then there's El Dorado County ACES Collaborative has a community. So they're growing the use of ACES Connection. So I just wanted to mention that.
Right, and I'm also working with Gail to get her to do some webinars for us, because that would be really outreaching for the whole state. Yes. To learn more about ACES Connection. So if you're listening, Gail, I need your proposal.
Well, it's my fault. I was supposed to remind her, and I forgot to remind her. Always something. So let's now hear from Alpine County. That would be no, not Jude. It's Sharon. Oh, no, Tammy. Not Tammy. No, Janelle isn't on. It's, yes,
Hi.
Tamara. There we go. Sorry about that. I was confused. Go ahead. We can hear you beautifully.
It's actually Janelle, Tamara, and Sharon are all not in the room right now. It's just the computer we're logged in on right now. So I'm not sure exactly what they had planned to share out with you guys. I think us in the room right now are kind of taking the learner position of what everyone else has been doing, and we plan on having a very vibrant Child Abuse Prevention Month coming up this April, and we'll be able to share what worked for us and our unique and little community that we have.
And it is unique.
I know that we've done Pinwheel Gardens before, So we plan on doing that again. And I know that we had raised the flag. I think it was pretty low attendance. So we'll look to revamp that and make sure that we have a higher attendance for that.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you got some ideas today. So.
Oh yeah, plenty of notes.
All right, before we move on to the last part of our morning, which is going to be our self-care time for us, as I call it. Any other questions out there in our hub or in our, oh, wait, I have a question. Hold on.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Robin Davis said in Calaveras County. The pinwheels that were so impactful on the corner there were the number of reported abuse cases. So it really made an impact.
Thank you. Good point. Excellent, excellent idea. Okay, so we're going to take a minute break because I have to pull up the TED Talk on my computer, and I'm going to ask, did you speak to the folks,
I'm
the remote folks?
Speak to the online folks.
Okay.
So what we need you to do here is to go into your materials, click onto materials. Then you will see, if you scroll down at the bottom of your materials, there's a link to a Bing.com video. So the best thing for you to do is to click on that video so that you are watching it yourself, because you won't get a very good result from watching it through us. So Lydia, I think you're going to switch the speakers over to Bart. So if you could see the link, it's www.bing.com/videos. I hope you all can see that in your materials section. You can go ahead and click on that and you can watch the video on your own computer. It says the video is no longer available. I can see it. Yes, I can see it about to click. Please let me know. Otherwise, what I'll do is let me copy. Let's see if I can put it into the. See if I can copy this and put it into your.
So everybody's going to watch this individually. The online folks, click on the link. We're going to watch it here in. We're going to watch it here in the hub, and then we'll come back together again when it's over. It's about a 20-minute video.
Okay, I put it into your chat box. So see if.
And I just want to let everyone know this is the book.
Put the microphone on mute. Yeah.
Trauma Stewardship, which every county will get a copy of, and it'll be in your library if it isn't already. So this is the book that she's going to be referring to. And also in your materials, there's a handout. It's not numbered. It says trauma response cycle, I think. Oh, is that what it says? I'm sorry. Yes. And it's handout number 10 for the people who are online. So it'll kind of help you follow along some of the topics that Laura Vandernoot Lipsky speaks to. And as I've said before introducing it, it's like a big piece of chocolate cake, but no calories. It's a really fun video. All right, I'm going to put her on. Hopefully it's going to start. section. Sorry. Yeah, it's very simple to get to. And she's got all the materials. If anybody wants to purchase this book themselves, you can order it on her website. And she also has a new book out, and they're great. They'll send you material, pretty quickly. But, yes, I'm gonna do that. So to everyone here at the hub and also to the folks at the remote sites, I hope you're able to access the video. What I invite you to do now is, what time is it? Can you have a time check? 12:08. So we have till 12:30 or longer. We're going to be cleaning up. We'll clean up around you here. I invite you to sit down with your table or pair up, however you want. Take a look at the trauma circle. Does somebody have it handy? I think I stole yours. I promise I'll go back. The trauma exposure response. It's a handout online, handout number 10. And also, hopefully you have it at your remote sites. Take some time, talk among yourselves, no report back. This is just for you. Think about some of the negative trauma exposure responses that you have utilized. I know I've utilized more than one. And then think about, and I invite you to look at the material that Natalie brought for self-care strategies for parents, and think about some of the things that maybe you could do or have done or will do to commit to take care of yourself. There's things you can do in 5 minutes. There's things that may take a little bit longer. But I invite, this is your time. Grab a snack, have some coffee, please eat some food. For the folks in here, we have tons of these left, so take them. I don't want to take anything back to my house. And I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to wish you all a happy holiday season. It's coming up, it's coming. And I will see you all in February, okay? Thank you very much. Oh, and do your evaluations, yay. So yeah, take your time.